Live from First Street Studios in South Tampa, Florida, it's time for another round of Last Call.
This is Last Call 76. We're not first. We're not second. We're last call, Dan.
That's right.
We're the first in and the last to leave because party don't start till Dan O'Brien and Jay get into town, right? But this video, we're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Big game coming up here against the Atlanta Falcons. Mentioned in a previous video, this one really could be for, dare I say, not just bragging rights, but who takes command of that wide open NFC South. Now, talked a little bit about Baker Mayfield previously. Also want to talk, he's coming off a difficult loss, but we know adversity defines the man, and we know Baker's been through a lot of it. Now, this is really the first time he's got roughed up out there, was the ball, so to speak, rather than the bat. What do you think he does differently this game, and what do you think he's done differently this year to rebound his career and get his career back on track?
I think you got to give a lot of credit to the Buccaneers as a whole. You got to give a lot of credit to Dave Canales, even though I question some of his stuff sometimes, but that's just what sports media guys do, right? Todd Bowles, he's really accepted him into the team, and Jason Light, who brought him in. It's just one of those things that you have to kind of be like, all right, this is your team.
Right.
He earned it through training camp. Trask gave him a good run. And the good thing about it is if the Baker does hurt, like his hand last week, he got hit with the face mask. So Trask is very capable of doing the job as well. So, but I think Baker feels good. He feels owned. He's not dealing with a organization like those organizations he's came from. I'm not going to name them, but we all know because we can look on paper and we can see that the Buccaneers have won 2 Super Bowl championships since 1976. And that's pretty good comparatively to other organizations been around for hundreds of years, right? Or not hundreds, but 50 to 100 years. So when I look at what Baker's doing right now, is he is confident now. He believes that the system is good. It will get better, and once we can run the ball, that's where our biggest, problem is right now. But he understands his job's not in jeopardy. The team appreciates him. And to be honest with you, the team last year, even though Tom Brady is Tom Brady, but we had an off year at 8-9.
Right.
So those players, all the media was about Tom Brady last year. Now, if you notice, you don't see so much Baker Mayfield or Tom Brady. You see, it's a split. So all the other players feel like a big part of the organization now. Most of the media is going to them all over the place. If you look at the Bucs app, right? So I think what we're learning is Baker just needed to believe in himself again. And it's easy to do that when the whole organization believes in you, from players all the way to the top. So, but I do think this game has to be his outbreak game. Like last week, we really could have won that Detroit game, but we missed on 3 of those opportunities down the field. So we can't run the ball right now. We got to get better at that. So once we fix that, and that new offense brought in with, Dave Canales coming out of Seattle there, we have to get off the ball faster. We start way too slow. We look great against Minnesota, but once you saw that offense, the teams, you got film now, right? So once you get film, makes it pretty easy to pick up what Tampa was doing. Is very much the same offense from last year. So I don't know if that's Todd Bowles doing it. I don't know if it's Dave Canales doing it, but it looks very similar to the big check down game of last year with Tom Brady played the same offense. What do you think?
And the last thing you want to do is, as you alluded to, you don't want to become too predictable. You don't want your tape to be told very easily.
Right.
And, one thing I know about Baker is he's playing like a guy who really has nothing to lose. He knows this is, pun not intended, his last call. He knows this is his last chance. You don't get a second or third opportunity to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Most guys don't even get second opportunity. He's in last chance, and he's coming in here, and instead of, I think, really, to sort of answer my own question here, I think he had the chip on his shoulder in Cleveland coming out of Oklahoma, and I think, it all came off the rails last year. They replaced him with Watson.
Yeah.
They replaced him with Deshaun Watson. This is a guy that led the Browns to the playoffs first time since Bill Belichick was a coach back in '95. First playoff win in God knows how long. We're going back to the 80s. And then they kick him out the door. Here's the latest shiny new toy, by the way, and Deshaun Watson, who we don't want to go into details, but we all know what went on with Deshaun Watson.
Right.
So I think a lot of it was confidence, and I think he's got that confidence back. He's on a team that he's got a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Mike Evans. He's got a guy in Chris Godwin, who I'm not going to call him Hall of Famer just yet, but he's certainly climbing up the ranks. And
he's definitely an all-pro.
He's an all-pro, one of the better wide receivers. So he's on the right team, and you mentioned it best, an organization that has sustained excellence. You know, they moved on from Bruce Arians, they moved on to Bowles. And last year, they still made the playoffs, and it was considered a disappointing year. I mean,
right, it was a way off year.
So sometimes getting in that environment to where you're with a team that has that sustained excellence, has that mentality, we're going to win at all costs, rubs off on people.
Absolutely.
Now, we're going to find out in the game tomorrow, though, look, can he rebound from a difficult loss? Because it really was. You said they didn't get off properly. There were several missed opportunities where they really could have won that game, you know, made it more competitive. But again, you learn something from losses. You learn as much from, and we're both fight fans, you learn as much from a loss as you do 15 wins. And we're going to find out tomorrow against a very good Atlanta team who, I'm going to call them, they're trying to become Philadelphia South.
Yes.
They're trying to become the Philadelphia run. It's the rugby style of football. You've got two really good running backs, Bijan Robinson, the stud out of Texas, a rookie who, one of the best pure running backs I've seen come out of the college ranks in the last 20 years. You got Tyler Algieri, who put up 1,000 yards last year and 230 carries. Ritter can run the football too. So then you got these two receiving threats in Kyle Pitts and Drake London. So it's going to be a tough one for them. But I think that Detroit game really prepared them for this one. I think that, they got roughed up a bit, and I think they're going to come in tomorrow a little bit guns ablaze, and I think they're going to, Canales is going to get that offense in check and, say, hey, listen, what happened last week, it's done, it's over with, and let's move on.
It's a 24-hour rule, right? But what I'm concerned about is if you look at all the games we've played, the defense has kept them at 22 points or less.
Right.
I think the goal pretty much in the NFL or anytime you coach football, I've done some of that, you've been around it, it's 17 points. The offense has to be able to score at least 17 points. And if we can't do that, we can't compete. So that's the big common denominator. So Todd Bowles, we know. All right, we can sit here and talk about Todd Bowles all day long. From his playing career, he was good, right? His coaching career, it is what it is. Well, let's not say it was excellent. But we do know one thing. He is probably the best defensive mind in the history of the NFL, or right there with the Ryans of the 85 Bears and what have you. So we know he's good in that part of the game, right? So I don't know what Dave Canales' role is right now. I know he's offensive coordinator. I think he's calling plays, and he is during the game. But we don't know what Todd's doing before the game and during the week of preparation, saying, no, we're going to run. You're going to run Rachaad White. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But the one key the dominator in this whole thing is we have got to score and score often in the first quarter. Right. Otherwise, when we get into the mid-season here, now we got to start picking up the AFC teams, right? So we got to play, Buffalo, which is a real tough game. Mm-hmm. And then we got our old Florida boys up north, Jacksonville, who's coming around very well. So when you start to think about it is we don't have a lot of room to make a lot of mistakes here. So we got to get busy. You know what I'm saying? We got to get busy now. And that comes down to that offense, which there's plenty of pros on it, plenty of Hall of Famers, potentially, right? Plenty of Pro Bowlers. Yep. A lot of the residual guys still from the Super Bowl. Right. So there's no excuse in my eyes that we can't at least go on my prediction, like I told you from the beginning of the season, 10-6 or 11, that's what I go 10-7, or what I say, 11-6. Right. And I'm going to stay with that. I think we can get that done. And that gives us a wild card or a potential bye, depending on the rest of the schedule throughout the league.
I think it wins a division. Absolutely, I think it wins a division because that division, as we mentioned before, pretty wide open. Right now, they're looking to be the creme of the creme. And I said before, tomorrow, big one. So I think right now they're in the right path. Todd Bowles, there's another one, reclamation project. So maybe him and Baker Mayfield working together. You're talking to a guy who was cast off by the Jets. It took him a couple of years to get another job. Some maligned him. We all saw what the Buccaneers went through last year with Byron Leftwich and the not so, I call it acrimonious departure. You were front and center with it. So this team went through some changes. But one thing Bowles does well, though, is he gathers the troops together. They run through walls for him, and he's able to handle the adversity like that. But tail of the tape, though, real quick for tomorrow, Dan. My call on this one is we know Atlanta can run the football. The Buccaneers, I think, should utilize it a little bit more because Rachaad White, that guy he's speedy, he's shifty, he can catch a ball out of the backfield. When I say shifty, he's deceptively quick. He's not going to, we're not talking A-Chain who's going to win a 40-meter dash, but he can hit the holes and get the speed out there, and he can separate from the others. I think they need to utilize him a little bit, but I think they need to jump out to that early lead. They need to put the score on the board often and put Atlanta in a comfortable position, because I don't think really Desmond Ridder is in a position to play come from behind. I don't think this Falcons team is built for that.
I agree. So we'll touch back with this next time we film. But hey, it was a good session. We'll talk to you soon.